Welcome back to the Garden to Glass podcast presented by the Hope Farm. I'm your host, Bentley Evans, and today I have the owners of Nova Espresso out of Mobile, Tim Gautreaux and Matt Morse. Appreciate y'all being here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So we're only missing Claire. She had to stay with the kiddos, huh?
Yep.
Well, shout out to her. She's an integral part of this as well.
Very.
Big time.
So I guess we could start. Tim, just give me kind of your background, and you can include Claire in this if you want, and just kind of what brought you to Mobile and Nova.
Yeah. We're both originally from Lafayette, Louisiana. We kind of lived in a few different places, but not to fast forward like a ton, but to get to the point.
Yeah.
Spent probably our most formative years in Dallas, Texas, which exposed us both to really cool small businesses and startups and hospitality concepts, from, hotels to coffee shops that inspired, probably the bulk of what we'll talk about. But
Yeah.
I've lived in Mobile 3 times now.
Okay.
And this one seems like the final stint, the most permanent
There you go.
stay here. And we've got 2 kids, an almost 5-year-old coming up in June, our daughter Violet, and a 2.5-year-old little boy, Fitz. And yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Well, I'm originally from the Chicagoland area,
Okay.
so suburb of Woodstock, Illinois. Spent my formative years there, obviously, and then went to the University of Illinois.
Okay.
Studied finance, actually.
Nice.
So I'll get into that a little bit. But so I had a life in finance for 12 years. After college, I moved to New Orleans. I kind of fell in love with the Gulf Coast, especially New Orleans, but
Right.
the golf course. I was
do
going
love the golf course.
straight to the golf course. The Gulf Coast. So I lived in New Orleans for 2 years. I moved to St. Louis.
Okay.
I was in St. Louis for 7 years, in Jacksonville, Florida, for 2 years. I've been here for 3 years.
Okay.
So I've got a wife, Ashley. She is a chemical engineer.
Nice.
Super smart. And then I have 2 kids, Owen and Hayes, 2 boys, exact same age as Tim and Claire's kids.
Oh,
So
nice.
We've got a lot in common there. So 5-year-old, and he'll be 3 in July, little
Yeah.
guy, Hayes. So
I'm rocking the 2-year-old and 10 or 12-week-old, so I'm a little behind.
yeah,
But both
we're all
boys.
in the thick of it though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. It's a game changer when you're owning your own business.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to take this time to introduce the cocktail for the episode. It is Cafe Esperanza is the name of it, which means like cafe or coffee, hope coffee or something like that. It's 1.5 ounces of Grey Goose, half ounce of Kahlua, 3/4 ounce of espresso, which is Nova Espresso, and half ounce of Coco Lopez, which is a coconut cream. You shake it, pour it over pebble ice in a mason jar, and drink it. Cheers.
Cheers. It's delicious.
All right, so let's jump into kind of the inception story here. So kind of, I guess we'll start with Nova Espresso, the downtown coffee location. Kind of how did that come about? Did y'all meet and start this together, or did you meet him after the fact? So it was you and Claire that started Nova Espresso, right?
Yep.
I'll let you take it from
Yep.
there.
Yeah, so Nova Espresso, we started February 2019.
Okay.
So we were a little into our 4th year. Gosh, it really started, like I mentioned in the intro, like living in Dallas, we were privileged to just have a ton of coffee shops and, at our disposal, whereas here on the Gulf Coast, we do not.
Right.
And it started like, it was a long process of just being patrons of these shops in Texas and, really enjoying the community surrounding craft coffee, and made some really awesome relationships in the kind of coffee community that spiraled into an at-home hobby.
Gotcha.
With, equipment that's way too expensive for your home kitchen.
Right.
That kind of gave us this idea that, we could maybe do something like that and opening our own shop. And 2018, we came to Mobile for a wedding.
Okay.
And had some extra time that we were just driving around, had not considered Mobile as an option to do this idea of opening our own shop.
Right.
Until kind of seeing how far downtown had come since the last time we had visited.
Yeah.
And, it seemed in a way safe, not as a slight, but
yeah,
not as many things going on to get judged hardcore, like Yelp and,
right.
These guys suck.
Right.
So, we went back to Dallas, thought about it a lot more. It felt right. We were really inspired by Kahlua, Christian and Courtney. They, we say this a lot and have told them a lot. Like, they pioneered third wave coffee in Mobile.
Yeah.
And we're like, man, it's possible. And, just kind of started putting the pieces together. The spot that we're in, we're negotiating a bit of that while still living in Texas. So
nice.
It was still like, we got to make this giant move back to what we call home now, and, how those details are going to pan out. So fast forwarding, took the leap, had about, 6 to 8 months of construction.
Right.
And so we were just popping up everywhere. We had a little espresso machine, and literally anybody that would have us.
Yeah.
We were just trying to get our name out there.
Yeah.
And which today we talk about, like, that was not intentional from the beginning, but so beneficial to our initial success, just because we had already built, quite a following.
Right. Just
through social media and being able to serve our product. And, when we opened our doors, people were like, oh, I know what this is.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so many layers to it, as just thinking about 3 years going through a pandemic, like, but that's the origin story of just really, a desire for community, just to have a space. Like we always say, Nova is an extension of our home.
Yeah.
And as philosophical as the food and beverage industry is, you might make a cocktail or something that you think is really good and somebody's like, this is terrible. Yeah. We kind of just hung our hat on, like, this is the way that we like coffee, and we want to invite you in, and we hope you enjoy it too.
Right.
And in retrospect, it's been so cool, just the people that we've met, the people that work with us, that have been with us since the beginning, and watching, like, their whole community literally shape around what we're doing.
Yeah.
We've got weddings internally happening, employees that are getting married, that, like, all of the people in their weddings have stemmed from
I love it. Yeah.
people that they've just met in the shop.
Yeah.
Or, like, worked with. So, that was the heart behind it. And it's been really cool to, sometimes it feels very third person. And I know Claire would say the same thing. It's just like it's an extension of you. Like, we're not the type of people that are wrapped into it, like, from an identity perspective. So it feels very like an extension of you that's just kind of taken shape, and,
that's cool.
Seems to be very appreciated in our
absolutely
our little area. So
I think y'all have done a good job, and like you said, just kind of being yourself and putting that out there. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But you can hang your hat on that
for sure. And I can probably, like, intro the next part, just because, like, 2 years in, Matt was I guess it was Ashley that was being relocated for a job, right?
Yeah, it was basically 3 months into Nova being open.
Yeah,
we moved to Mobile. Do you want me to take over, or do you want to keep talking?
Well, just the fact that, like, as that community has grown, Matt, who is now our business partner, and we've got, roasting and front yard tacos and Nova Market, like, him being a vital piece to that was just, I guess, a part of us opening Nova downtown, like, having that communal availability for somebody that's coming in from out of state to be like, oh, this is the type of coffee I'm looking for.
Right.
We make relationship and, golfing buddies.
Yep.
And now we're in the thick of it.
Yeah. Well, it's probably good to, find somebody that shares the same values and has, has a value set that maybe you didn't have that adds to, everything you're doing, and then you're able to expand on that brand like y'all have.
Yep.
Cool. So I guess just stepping back, so how did y'all, when you decided, where did you decide on Nova? Where did that name come from? And then also kind of how did that lead into the branding for it?
So the real story is we were still in Texas. I was watching Peaky Blinders.
Nice.
And I think it's like season 2. There's reference to like Nova Scotia, which like Gautreaux is French. There's a lot of French Canadian, like there's a whole lot there. And I have like my great grandfather migrated from Nova Scotia. So I was like,
nice.
That could be like a sentimental, like that's kind of cool, Nova.
Yeah.
And then looking up the word, it just means new. And throughout our branding, we've played into a lot of like the star type, the galaxy deal of it, where like a supernova is a star that gets as bright as it's possibly going to get, and then it returns to its natural state, which was kind of like, another layer to like, we went away, now we're coming back. And so it's just truly just a fun word. And then looking into it was like, no, that works. We've had a lot of fun with the branding. But yeah,
I think you've done a good job with it. So as far as before Matt gets into the picture, the experience that y'all kind of had that you wanted to deliver, obviously it was something that you didn't find down here originally, other than Chaleur, like you said. What was that experience like that you wanted the guests to have when they were coming in to get coffee? I mean, you said you kind of wanted it to be like an extension of your family, or maybe like a home away from home or something like that. What was that experience that y'all were going for?
I mean, I think we felt like we were going to come in and offer something different. And we've said for, since we started, like we want to give the people of Mobile, like we want to give our customers something that they didn't know they wanted.
Right.
'Cause in the South, there's kind of a stigma of how coffee should be brewed.
Yeah.
And, having a different approach, it was just quality, consistency. We see a lot that like good customer service, like genuine customer service covers a multitude of sins.
Absolutely.
Like, you can have a mediocre product and people will remember the way that you made them feel. Yep. Which, I mean, we feel like we have a good product, so that's a bonus.
Right.
But, really just having that as a top priority of like, we want to have people come in, have a genuine experience to feel like they're seen. Right. And, leave with a solid coffee.
I think you deliver on it. Every time I go in there, I feel that way.
Cool.
And I don't know anyone in there personally either. And so it's, even the first time I even came in, it felt that way. So I think y'all are doing a great job at that. So insert Matt, what was the, did y'all didn't know each other before? So what was the initial conversation? How did this spark up?
Well, I remember the first time I met Tim and Claire. We were visiting Mobile to find a house. Okay. And I mean, to be completely transparent, I did not want to move to Mobile. Like, that was not in my life plans or goals, which I think, I'm glad I was wrong.
Sure.
But so I was trying to find home, I think, in Mobile. We were going to move. We were supporting, my wife's career. She wanted to change to this site that's in McIntosh.
Okay.
Was with the same company, just took a transfer.
Gotcha.
And I was working for Amazon at the time, and remote job, so it didn't matter really where I was.
Sure.
And so I remember would have been in April of 2019. I walked into Nova, and I remember telling Ashley, like, okay, yeah, I can live here.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those things where I found and it was so quick too, right? Yeah. It was like, I mean, I've lived in some bigger cities and have always been kind of a coffee nerd. So when I see a coffee menu that doesn't have sizes on it, I'm like, all right, found my spot. Right? Like,
Right, yeah.
if there's a cortado, there's a cappuccino, no like sizes of those things. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is my kind of coffee.
Right.
Step one.
Yeah.
And then we had a conversation with him, and I think we were there for probably, it was meant to be just to stop in and get coffee, and we chatted for probably 15, 30 minutes just about like looking for a house, here's where we're moving from. And, you know, at the time, I think Tim and Claire were pretty much holding the place down. I don't even know that there were other employees at the time. And so we met early on in their, at least brick and mortar experience.
Yeah.
And then I became a regular because I was working remote, drinking a lot of coffee. That was my spot.
Yeah,
so
man.
I was there all the time. And so I'm not a particularly shy person, neither is Tim. So I would walk up to the machine and he'd be making drinks and I would just stand there. And the next thing you know, like a couple hours go by and we're just still chatting. And, you know, I think he wore a golf hat in one day and I was like, oh, you golf? And it's like, all right, now there's a whole other layer to this thing. And,
Right.
you know, the first couple dates were awkward, but,
Sure.
but we became really close, both in the shop with me spending so much time there as well as on the golf course. The golf course is a great place to develop relationships, especially if you're, you know, neither of us are uppity about it at all.
Right.
Very, very low key. In fact, like want to invite people into the golf community, and we have friends that want us to take them golfing, but even though they've never golfed before. But it's a
Even
great
if you
place.
suck, yeah.
Even if you suck,
Yeah.
it's not about that, right? It's
Right.
about the conversation and spending 4 hours in nature and both internal contemplation as well as
Sure.
working things out with people. So Tim got to hear all my, you know, all the stuff underneath in terms of, you know, I don't know that I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I was took a leave of absence from work. And anyways, we kind of came to the conclusion, eventually we'd come up with ideas in the shop and it was like, yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
And eventually, you know, Tim called me one day and he was like, you know, if you want to do this, like we can do this.
Yeah.
Like we can be partners in this, whether it's growing Nova as a brand or going into like a wholesale roasting operation, you know, food program, et cetera. So we have a lot of big ideas. Hopefully we can get into today, but past, you know, coffee and food and just hospitality in general. So
Gotcha.
we share a lot of the same values, but have complementary skills,
Right.
I would say. So yeah.
That's a special relationship there. If you
It is.
you share all of those things, it's kind of like you're like, we got to go do something
Yeah,
together.
no, it was just, it just made so much sense.
Right.
And we became friends outside of the shop and kids
Right.
being the same age. And,
Yeah.
you know, it was just
Perfect.
Yeah, worked out really well.
So you came on and expanding the brand. I mean, for you and Claire, Tim, was expanding the brand always part of the plan, or was it always going to be, you know, originally was it just going to be espresso, or did you ever have the market as something in your you know, future?
Yeah, I think inevitably, I don't know that we had honed in on what that was, because I think, you know, that can sound kind of weird to be like, oh, this was just a stepping stone. But
Right.
I think the premise of what we're still doing was the priority from day one. And I think through that, you know, your hobbies and interests kind of spill into, well, you know, maybe we could try this. And I think,
Right.
yeah, it was just, I think sometimes, you know, again, I feel like a lot of this is hindsight. While we do look forward a lot, it's just like crazy to see how it all panned out in a short amount of time. That like, the market was always a conversation.
Yeah.
And good tacos was always a conversation.
Yeah.
And really just good food in general, that, you know, it kind of seems that like the things that we like,
Yeah.
and we said this too, like I want to open businesses that I would be a customer of,
Right.
to almost share that experience of like,
Exactly.
you know, if I would go and spend money at this place, like it's not there yet,
Right.
or at least the version of what we would do,
Sure,
you know, not that we have it figured out or we're going to do it the right way, but like, building upon what we have seems almost like a obligation.
Yeah.
Of like, man, Mobile really can be exciting, and it is. And I think it's a place that a lot of people have looked over. Like,
Right.
It's just been like, oh, you know, I think our tagline is like perpetual potential, which just seems like,
I like it.
yeah, like, you know, let's see some of that potential play out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think to answer your question, like we sort of saw it. I don't think we went into it with the game plan of like, we're going to do front yard tacos and we're going to do Nova. It was just like, let's just see kind of how this plays out.
Right.
And there's just been really good opportunity to pursue those. Do
you think like Matt coming along escalated that process?
Yeah, I was thinking about that as he was answering it for sure. And Matt came in like at the perfect time. And I've told him this, but now I'm going to be on record telling him that, like
on record,
just his finance background was something that's like, QuickBooks does not bring me joy, like whatsoever. I can sit and dream up a new idea, but like when I have to do any kind of bookkeeping or accounting, I'm like,
Right.
So Matt, he doesn't do this, but I like to say that he makes spreadsheets for fun.
For the record, I do not enjoy QuickBooks either.
But he's really good at it.
Which is why I left my career, right? Like that was the thing.
Right.
I think you realize at some point, like just because you're good at something doesn't mean you enjoy it. Now,
agree completely.
But you know, doesn't mean I can't keep doing it.
Right.
And it's for something I'm more interested, invested in. So it's a bit more rewarding when I
helps
can
a little
look
bit.
at numbers and build spreadsheets and stuff, and it's like a real problem.
Right.
That we're facing.
Affects your dollars
Affects
in your
my
pocket.
dollars.
Yeah.
Right? Affects, yeah.
Well, it was like right
people we're
at
close with.
COVID. There was a restaurant downtown that was providing food for us, and they pretty much shut down like entirely, and we were left like with no option.
Right.
And you know, if you were operating during COVID, like you got scrappy. It didn't matter. You were like, we're gonna figure it out.
Oh yeah.
And so Claire was doing a lot of baking up at the shop, like literally we were just figuring it out, grab and go tacos, like, you know, we're going to give some option
right.
and just see what happens. And it was right around that time that we were talking seriously about like, maybe we could acquire like a food truck or something to, you know, make this official, put feelers out for somebody that could make it happen. And then I feel like Matt was like in sync with those conversations that just like from there, it was, it's kind of a blur. Like we just jumped into all of it.
I was there so much. It was like,
yeah,
whether I was part of the team or not.
What do you think about this?
Yeah, we were talking about it. So.
All right. So Front Yard Tacos started in October 2020, and obviously it was in the middle of COVID. So what was the original? I mean, obviously that was kind of you were adding on to your existing business in the middle of a pandemic where people were going crazy, were uncertain about the future. You know, what was that process like?
Well, so we started doing pop-ups in October of 2020. I would say Front Yard didn't become like a thing or a name until February of 2021. We bought the actual truck in January.
Okay.
So I think like we knew it was going down that path. Like we were looking for options, looking for food trucks.
Yeah.
And found a company out of Huntsville that we got the truck from.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I think so. It started in October. We kept doing pop-ups for a while, all through the spring.
Yeah.
The truck was just sitting there in the back of the shop for a while, collecting some dust.
I think in the timeline, it's like it's blurry just because it was so organic. Like we were like the love of breakfast tacos was like way before that.
Yeah.
Then we find ourselves doing these pop-ups under a tent, all under the premise of like, you know, we need to be safe. Like we need to, let's keep it outside. Let's make it very like, you know, you're not sitting down at a table. Like it's pretty, you know, it's not invasive.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. Like to think back on how it just progressed. And then even with the truck in mind was like, it's a food truck.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're just going to walk up to it, get your food, leave.
Right. I mean, it's
kind of
very
pandemic.
COVID friendly. Yeah.
It was. And even just like doing pop-ups in front of the shop, we're just thinking of Mobile, like, you know, there's a lot that happens in a front yard. And I think we were throwing around random stuff. We were all dancing around the name, and Matt was like, front yard. And I was like,
it.
Duh. Because we've got a good front yard at Nova.
Yeah.
And it just stuck. And, the branding for that concept is super cool.
Yep.
Which I think it just perpetuated a lot of what the market was already going to be.
Sure.
Like those ideas were just, again, very organically happening to where like when we're making decisions on things, it just stemmed from every piece to the puzzle that
Sure.
it was like one cohesive brand.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I love the name Front Yard. It means so much to me. Like I think it for me it was about Mobile in general, right? Like I remember we live on Reed Avenue in Mobile in Midtown, and we had trouble finding a house when we moved here, and it was like we drove down that street that day, and there was a crawfish boil happening in one front yard. There was people hanging out in the front yard on the front porch.
Yeah,
and I remember being like, "This is what I like. This is what I like about Mobile." It's you can go hide in your backyard,
right?
If you're in the front yard, like you're ready to party.
Yeah,
you're ready for people to walk up. You don't,
sure, yeah.
You're inviting people in, right? And I think it just is consistent with everything that Nova was too, right? Yeah. Inclusive,
right? Make
you feel at home. I think the Nova brand's maybe like a little bit more formal, and Front Yard's a bit more like let your hair down,
right?
Bit more of a party, which is a bit more me too. But yeah, it is funny to think back at like how that progressed from pop-ups to buying the equipment for the truck. Yeah, it all happened so organically. It's hard to even think of timelines, but
I feel like Front Yard kind of has its own identity, as
sure.
Aside from Nova. Like it's obviously right there on the property, and it's it was all stemmed from that. But I feel like it has its own identity for sure.
Most people don't think that it's the same owner,
right?
We get that a lot. Like I'll say, oh yeah, we have a food truck at downtown, and they're like, oh, that's y'all too? Like, yep. Like it is different, but it feels right.
I think
like
it's complementary.
Yeah.
I think it works really well, and I loved being able to supply some mushrooms every now and then for some specials.
We'll do that again too.
Yeah, we'll have
so
to.
Good.
Collaborations are always fun.
Yeah.
So obviously Front Yard Tacos was Nova Market already kind of in the works during this process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the build out just took so long.
Right.
I mean, it was another thing that it's a gamble. I mean, it felt very much like maybe how day traders feel when they're taking a risk on a volatile market, because it's like we don't know what's going to happen. And the grocery component to Nova Market kind of like we really leaned in on that just because we heard the words essential business like over and over.
Right.
These businesses can stay open if you're selling toilet paper and whatever.
Right.
And we learned that coffee was very essential.
Yeah.
I think I can confidently say that coffee is pandemic proof. People will still drink coffee if that happens again.
For sure.
So yeah, it's kind of funny that like because the project took so long, Nova Market was like we were well on the way to that concept even before Front Yard.
Yeah.
So I think like looking back, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise to be able to vet like a food program, get some more time under our belt with Nova Downtown, build our team, even just the language of having another location and what that would look like. It was like, while it was frustrating at times, I think it was valuable time to prepare like ourselves and our team for what was ahead.
Yeah, doing the food component definitely changes the game completely.
Yeah,
it's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
So hiring employees. So you started out, it was you and Claire kind of rocking it out in the coffee location. Kind of what has y'all's process been on hiring people? Obviously, you probably have your values and things that you kind of look for in people in these positions. But kind of what does that process look like for you as an entrepreneur and owner, business owner?
I can say it's changed as we've grown, but I think one value that's consistent is just bringing on people that are obviously passionate individuals to start with. Like I feel like everybody on our team is intricately unique in their own hobbies, their presentation of themselves, and I think that it complements our brand and what we're doing. But I think we just look for people that really are bought into making a difference in Mobile.
Right.
Like, I think being a part of a company that's, hopefully when it's all said and done, made a difference in our city.
Yeah.
And it shows just in the tenure, like our first and original employee still works with us. And pretty much everybody, unless you've come on because of the market or a new concept, has been with us
right.
since the beginning.
Yeah. I think retention speaks volumes, as far as company culture goes. So how old are you?
35.
And you are?
34. I'll be 35 in June.
Okay. So y'all are the same age. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I think, I've said this in the past podcast. I think, our kind of age group, company culture is such a huge deal.
Yeah.
And especially for these types of like unique businesses that, y'all have started and kind of we're doing, that we're kind of doing something off the beaten path a little bit, changing it up. We got multiple facets to what we're doing. And then attracting people that you want to work with, that want to, come to work, that have that passion, that they can buy into what you're doing because of how you're running the place. I think it's crucial for sure.
I think being like leaders in the community, right? Like trying to raise the bar for hospitality.
Yeah.
I know, I don't know if you're familiar with Danny Meyer's Setting the Table, the book. Mm-hmm. He has a whole chapter in there about like a 51%er, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always better to have have that hospitable nature about you, right? I can take that and I can run with it.
Yep.
Right. The skill is 49% of the equation.
Right.
It's obviously important, but what's slightly more important is, do you want to be here? Do you want to provide an environment for people that they want to come into?
Yep.
We don't want anybody to work for us that doesn't want to be there.
Sure.
Right. I think that is so important as we continue to hire and grow. And I think it's just, do you have that hospitable nature?
Yep.
Especially if you're kind of front of house, forward facing, right? Like, I think you have to have that, and it has to be innate. Like, I can't teach you that.
Yep.
You have to want to be the host of the party in some ways, right?
Absolutely.
Especially when you start serving beer or wine, dinner service. People are coming there for kind of a release, a cathartic, moment.
Yep.
And so finding people that have that and share that value of like, I'm here to have a good time. I'm at work. But if I have a beer while I'm doing it and I'm having a good conversation with a customer, like, that's great. That's a good experience for everybody.
I agree.
So finding people that have that in them innately,
right,
or at least think they do, right?
What do you think the key, the number one key to your employee retention has been? What do you think it is that people gravitate towards?
I mean, if you're self-aware in the slightest, like, it's a hard question to answer because you don't want to think that you've like done something, like
figured it out.
Yeah, somebody that works with us is gonna listen to this.
Yeah,
they're
for sure.
Be like, you're not that cool, and I know that. But I think we've done a good job of like saying that I'm not gonna ask you to do anything that, number one, I'm not willing to do or haven't done.
Yep.
And not as like I'm not like holding that over your head, but it's more of like, I'm in this with you. And it is that feeling of like just the ultimate commitment for us as owners. Like, we always say like, there's not another plan. There's no plan B outside of this. So, it's got to work.
Right.
And I think our team feels that.
Yep.
Like, they know that we are very much behind the bar making coffee, and if there's something that we don't know, we're really quick to saying like, I don't know the answer to this, but we can figure it out. We always say solutions, not problems, and if you've got a problem, let's find a solution. So I think like hopefully we're creating an environment, and then I think if you were able to interview some people that work with us, they would vouch for the fact that like, we hit opposition. Yeah. We're not going to be like, figure it out. You're on your own. It's like, okay,
right.
Let's figure this out. Or, and that goes for both. Like, we're there to celebrate the big wins, whatever the like record days of business, or like,
Yeah.
you know, pulling off an event or whatever that is, like we're right there in the thick of it with our team. And I think that feels rewarding. Like, I think we've all worked jobs where you kind of feel like you're on an island.
Yep.
And that's not what we're creating. We're not trying to, like, you know, build some business that's going to ultimately be like a legacy or retirement venture.
Right.
It's like, no, these are passion projects.
Yep.
Like we're in it to,
In it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say the two things I would add to that is, and maybe a form of it that you've already said, is authenticity, right? Like, I think we are genuinely ourselves, and I don't think we put on a face for really anybody.
Yeah.
And I think our team sees that and appreciates that, and then the promise for growth. I think they see that we're trying to build something,
Right.
that we're not trying to like create something and then kind of stay stagnant. Like, we're continuously pushing the bar.
Right.
I mentioned cinder blocks earlier. Like, we're trying to build an outdoor area in front of market. Like,
Nice.
and I'm out there sweating and moving bricks around with Claire. And so, it's all hopefully, right? As Tim said, I'm not saying we figured this out. This is what I hope is kind of communicated, but
Right.
through action, right?
Yeah.
Like, they can see us, that we're in it. We're authentic in that, and that we're trying to grow. And we want everyone that's on the team to grow with us.
Yeah, I think authenticity, and then, like you said, no plan B.
Yeah.
Like, we're in this. Like, there's no other option. There's no fail here.
Yep.
And I think people, if they see that and they see that you're invested in it, it's not just a side thing, or you have, looking for your way out of it as soon as you can.
Yep.
People buy into that.
Yeah,
I think that's crucial. So, shifting gears a little bit, roasting your own coffee. So, obviously, I would assume that was part of the plan as well. Oh, it wasn't. I assumed wrong. All right, so tell me, how'd you find yourself roasting coffee?
Pandemic.
Okay.
Really, like, and I think we'll look back one day and see how like valuable that year was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, really 2 years, but in the, like 2020 was just,
Right.
we were scrapping.
Yep.
To where that no plan B really kicked in, right? 1 year in. No, there was a company that has truly made roasting for small cafes really easy.
Okay.
It's a zero emissions, pretty compact setup. You're roasting in 5-pound batches. They're not cheap, but they're a small business. So during that year, they were making it pretty, a sweet deal for shops like Nova to like, hey, get in on this. And, I think you'll really see the benefit when we're in the middle of a pandemic, that your customers would love to, buy coffee that you're roasting. It's just a different avenue of business. And, we had said from the beginning, like, there's so many people roasting phenomenal coffee. Like, one of the examples that I use, it's kind of like buying the best cut of meat. Like, you may grill it to perfection. Well, I could take it home and put it in the microwave and completely screw it up. Like, sourcing green coffee and roasting it is all very relative. Like, and now as a roasting company as well, we try to do the best job with the product that we source. And the company that, makes these roasters, like, it made it easy to kind of get in the roasting game. And so we did. That was like a big leap into the unknown. And gosh, this timeline's going to be skewed too, but I think this is all around like front yard pop-ups, mats in the mix. We had an opportunity to expand that side of the business and buy a bigger roaster, and we did. Nice. And that's, I mean, you might have more questions to it, and I don't know if you want to add to it, but that's like a part of our business that's like really untouched. Like, has so much potential that, like, we're in a lot of cafes and we're, subscriptions. Like, a lot of people are drinking the coffee that we roast. Obviously, the Hope Farm. Yeah. and we love that, but it still feels like, at some point soon we're going to be able to jump in.
Still untapped potential.
Give it the attention that it needs and see where it goes. But it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I would say it just hasn't had like an active sales department, right?
Right.
Meaning like that would be Tim or I, or,
Right.
or Piper, who does all the roasting for us on our team.
Okay.
Yeah, that day will come, and like that was the vision, right? To expand roasting, not
Yeah.
only to supply our own cafes, but to put it out in the community or put it out into another market. Like I think I'm constantly, and I've told Tim this, and you know, to be a part of it now is just humbling. But I think like I go to other cities, I travel quite a bit, and I go to top notch cafes, and I'm like, man, I can't beat a Nova cappuccino, like a Nova cortado. Like
Right.
it's the product is just excellent, and I
agree.
think I've drank enough coffee that I can say that with confidence, and I know Tim has too.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get that out in the market and kind of push the gas on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, what was the process there? I mean, if it wasn't part of the original plan, then obviously there was some education that you had to go through to like learn that. What was that like?
No, I think just going back to that time in Dallas, like Claire and I just had so many good coffee experiences that it kind of like, you know, it's like educating with anything, whether it's wine or bourbon. Like you reach a point where you're like, this is good. I don't know why it's good.
Yeah.
But I know it's better than what I've had. And then you go into that deep dive of trying to understand why.
Yeah.
And I think that's what getting into coffee for us was, and roasting was a layer of that, it's like, okay, we have a general idea of the components required to roast a good cup of coffee.
Right.
And with a ton of help, obviously, like, you know, we're at the point now with Nova having like a following where we're able to do like some consulting on coffee, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's complete imposter syndrome, right? Where you're like, you're answering questions that you're like, I don't know that I'm qualified to answer this question. And it's all through just people that are like mentors and close friends that pick up the phone when you're like, hey, what do I do when this happens or whatever?
Right.
So like, yeah, I mean, if Aldi were to ever listen to this, like a shout out, my friend Jonathan Aldridge, he's in Texas with Houndstooth Coffee. They're
Okay.
all over Austin and Dallas, and Tweed is the roasting company. Like he's been a lifeline for me. So
I love it.
I think you just got to have those people. Like
Absolutely.
when you don't know, like you're asking, like obviously you had to know, like, no, I didn't, but I knew people that could kind of navigate me through it. And it was just, you know, call it a shortcut
Sure.
to get to the point to where it's like, no, we really like this. And like Matt said, like we've got a decent sized team now that also travels, and they're like, you know, going to some cafes, and it's like, no, my stuff at home, like Nova it's good. It holds up. Like it's
Right.
one of the best. And so that's, you put that in your back pocket.
Absolutely.
And it keeps you going, where it's like, okay, we're going to push the limits on this and see where it can go. So
It's motivating, man.
yeah.
Yeah. You got obviously have something that you need to exploit.
Yep.
Yeah. That's really cool. So Piper, you said, so how did you find this guy or girl? I don't.
Yeah. Piper's a guy.
Okay.
My
Sorry,
guy.
sorry, Piper. I mean,
My
you know,
guy.
it goes both ways.
Peppy.
So how did you find him, and kind of how big of a role has he played?
So this will like answer a previous question about employment. A lot of our team were just customers of the shop. And Matt is a business partner who is a customer of the shop. Like
That's wild.
Piper was just around and had no coffee experience to now like literally roasting all of our, I'm thinking about Hangout Fest. We're roasting like 200 pounds for
Nice.
Foam.
yeah, we roast for Foam and Gulf Shores. They've got
Yeah.
the Hangout Fest gig. So it's like, it's kind of cool to see how it then extends to people that are going to be here from like all over the world. Like they're
Sure.
drinking the coffee that Piper roasted, who had no coffee experience. And now, like, you know, he's made a career out of this. And
That's cool.
I think he kind of found us. I don't think we found Piper, but we put him behind bar, and I taught him what I knew.
Yeah.
And now his title is Director of Roasting and Coffee Education.
That's cool.
So anybody that we bring on that's new, he shows them the ropes,
Learns them
literally
up.
teaching them everything.
That's awesome.
Sourcing new coffees, what flavor notes, you know, we should be pulling out of them. So yeah.
Is there a traveling process involved in that, or like, are you doing this remotely? Kind of I mean, is he in control of the sourcing of the beans and all of that, or?
Well, I mean, I work pretty close with him, and that just stems from, how it started.
Yeah.
Maintaining that quality and curating and making partnerships with different importers. Like we're a layer away from direct to farm because the importers that we work with are direct to farm.
Awesome.
So it's been really cool to even expand like our coffee education from that perspective. So it's remote, but you can learn a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You can just through relationships and asking questions. Like we've truly got, like, there's a importer out of Tampa that it's a 50-50 partnership, and one of the guys is from Colombia.
Nice.
So he sources coffee from the farms that like he's very close with.
Right.
So we're talking to the guy that's there, that's like, giving us the rundown on what we're roasting.
Awesome.
But I think
Hopefully it grows into trips. Like I would.
I was about to say that's like sounds awesome.
I have a passion for travel, especially global travel. So for sure, hopefully we're making trips to Colombia. I would love to go to Africa and go to Ethiopia and Kenya. Those are some of my favorite coffees.
Right.
I mean, I like coffee from all over, but would love to go and get closer to it. And I think that's just part of the growing process, right? It's part of learning about the coffees and scaling and being able to justify and afford trips like that. But definitely in the goals. Yeah.
So what are y'all most excited about as far as the future holds for Nova, Front Yard Taco, the whole encompassing brand?
Man, we could talk for a long time. Tim and I, whenever we get drinks, it's like it goes one of two ways. Either we vent and have a therapy session, or we get really excited about all the things that we would love to go do.
Right.
We have no shortage of ideas and
it's a good thing.
Concepts we'd love to pull off. I think right now, though, like we are fully entrenched in market, in Nova Market, and making that concept more widely known. I think if you were familiar with Nova before and you're following on social media, you're familiar with it, you've come in, you've kicked the tires, and you've probably come back because the product is really good.
I agree.
Both in the kitchen as well as in the market, as well as the coffee. The whole experience is great in my opinion. But we're working on making sure that more people know that.
Yeah.
But we're leaning into wine a little bit. I wouldn't say nearly to the extent, obviously, as here. Will helped us kind of get started with an initial inventory. But that's one of those same things. Like you're hearing us talk about roasting out loud. It's like it's the same conversation, right? We're learning about it more every day, more every week. I'm kind of getting into that right now with Elena. She's another very important person on our team that I feel like we must mention. She's our director of staffing and culture. So she's,
cool.
But right now spends a lot of her time at market, kind of getting it off the ground. So anyways, we've gotten really into wine and kicked off a wine tasting every Wednesday.
Nice.
And last week was the first week. Tonight's the second week.
Nice.
But just finding out what is our team passionate about and leading into those things and letting them explore that. Yep. I think Elena discovered that she's really passionate about wine and super interested in it. So run with it. Let's do it. Let's do wine tastings and see where it goes. Maybe Nova opens another wine shop. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be anything, but I think as long as you have people on your team who are passionate about it, we're there to support them and invest in it with them.
Yep. I agree, man.
So anyways, I think it's hard to put a finger on what we're most excited about. I think
I had to echo that. I think market, today we had a slamming lunch business that it's when you're close to it, you feel confident about the product, it's going to succeed, but you need that gratification of people reciprocating.
Sure.
And so seeing, just a Wednesday lunch rush of people eating and, drinking the product that we are so familiar with is okay.
Yep.
This is cool.
Validation.
And it's just we're in the heart of what I would consider the heart of Mobile. Somebody might argue me and say West Mobile is where it's at, but
Oakley would be the argument.
Yeah, we're in the thick of Midtown where it's dense neighborhoods and
booming. Yeah.
What we see at that location is mobilians. Downtown you get a lot of tourism, a lot of people seeking out coffee.
Yep.
Market is, at least right now, people that live and work
The neighborhood.
and breathe mobile. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that was the dream, to be a neighborhood market and cafe. So like, we're all in on that right now, and it's it's growing.
Yeah, for sure.
And the product is good. Again, like the food program is killer.
Yep.
So
Making
that's
pizzas and pizza dough in house and trying to do it right. Like our head chef there is a fine dining background, so
that helps. That helps a lot.
So I would love to get to the point where we can do some. I would love to do ticketed dinners. Like, lean into that, right? Like lean into our team's passions.
I agree, man. I think exploiting your team's passions is going to, creating that culture where people want to, bring their ideas to the table, and then you allow them to kind of run with them. Yeah. It's longevity right there for sure. So that kind of runs me into this question. So entrepreneurship, what would be, your, and I'll let you both answer, kind of your advice to somebody who's trying to start a business in your industry? What would be your number one advice to that person? It's a tough one.
It's like there's a lot of layers to unpack, because I think like, doing this, I guess even pre brick and mortar for going on 5 years, like, had you asked me this question a year ago, it might've been a different answer.
Sure.
But I think today it's just like really being in tune with like that gut intuition of like, no, I want to take that leap. Like, I want to jump into said concept. Like, and there's so many out there to where you could say like, there's nothing new under the sun. But I think what makes it unique is just that conviction of your own authenticity or uniqueness. Like, we're going to make coffee, and coffee's not new, but we're going to do it our way and stay committed to that in a way that's like, we're not going to let, the status quo, like, number one, discourage us or turn us into something that we're not. So I think just being authentic, being yourself, and letting that really speak through your product. And I think people will pick up on that.
I agree.
Your customers can sense if the product is authentic, because there's a lot of places that open and close. And there's a lot of, dishes that have already been made. So really putting your touch on it, letting that communicate through the product. And I think people want to support that. I think people really want to support somebody that is passionate about what they're doing. Which is like the big question, like, what am I passionate about? Like, we've all been through those moments. So I know that's not like, you can't just pick that off of a tree somewhere. But,
sure.
If you're on the fence and you're like, no, I really want to take that leap, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Because while there's no plan B in our current business, like, I could not see myself going back to a corporate structure whatsoever.
I agree.
So if it's not this, it may not be a plan B, but it's going to be, it's going to revolve around, being myself, being ourselves. Claire would say the same thing. Because I think, that passion translates. People pick up on it, and you feel that gratification. You can wake up every day and you're like, nope, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
I agree.
Yeah. I'd echo everything that Tim said, but I would say you'll not regret it. You won't regret it. Like, if you fail, you will have learned more in your failure than you would have staying and doing the same thing. So for me, entrepreneurship and putting yourself out there and, having conversations every day with customers, like, gosh, I learned so much just about life. It's not about coffee or about food. Like, that's what we do.
Right.
But I feel like I learn way more about people every day than I do the product. And so that's really rewarding, and makes me feel like I'm living life to the fullest. Right.
I agree.
At some point you got to understand the numbers and understand whether you're failing or succeeding. There's the finance nerd in me saying like, no, you got to do the QuickBooks.
Right.
But you will learn more about life doing this than you will anything else. And I think that has been something, and I've been doing this, I guess, now for a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's been longer because those conversations bled so much before we made it official, but officially a year and a half. God, yeah, I would not trade it for anything. And so, yeah, to me, my advice would be do it.
Yeah.
If you're contemplating it, do it. You will learn a lot. You will be tired.
Yeah.
If you're doing it right, you'll be tired. And be an owner operator. Like, to me, I can always tell when I walk into businesses, if it's owner operated. Right. I can always tell.
Right.
Unless you're talking like big city, significant financial backing where the owner doesn't need to be there or something where there's just endless funds.
Right.
Then they can kind of pay for a show, right? But I think any sort of local business, you can tell.
Yep.
You can tell right away. Are there lights out? Are there like I would not let that fly, right? If I saw a bulb out, I'd get on a ladder and change it. So be an owner operator and be invested in it with your time, with your emotions. And, you might question sometimes, like, am I putting too much into this? But then you will inevitably realize you're not.
Yeah, you answer your own question there.
Yeah. But you'll question it, no doubt.
Yeah.
I think we all go through that and then we arrive at the same answer.
Right.
But, yeah, do it.
I think hearing those stories is extremely motivating to people, especially if they're on the edge of like, should I take this leap? Should I get out of this comfortable job and go and do something, I'm passionate about? It's definitely a risk, but the reward, like you said, man, it's worth it in the end. Either if you fail or if you succeed, either way, it's beneficial.
We can get real philosophical. What are we all here to do, right?
Exactly.
What is life? And to me, it's just trying to learn every day.
Yeah.
So I'm doing most of that.
I agree.
Doing this.
Yeah. So is there anything y'all would do differently? If there's one thing.
I don't think so. I mean, I think we kind of have a bit of a mantra too that's like it's always easier to add than to take away, and I think we've preserved that in a way, because like Matt said, like there's no shortage of idea, and it's a tightrope. Like I think that's a very relative answer.
Sure.
But I think in terms of the Nova brand, I still feel like there's a lot left to be desired. So like, I wouldn't change anything right now.
That's cool.
I think it can only be built upon from here. So
I dig it.
Yeah. I wouldn't have done anything differently. There's things I wish I did better.
Sure.
Which I guess could be different. Like I wish I was better. Always. Like I wish we had more time to meet with our team and I wish we had better, cause the team's growing, right? So it's hard to like keep that structure. And especially as owner operators, like we're behind bar, right?
You're in the trenches.
I get a call from like Uber Eats. Gosh, shout out Uber Eats. You're relentless. But they're trying to like get us to be on their platform, and I'm answering the call, and I'm like, dude, I'm behind bar. Like I'm not in an office. Like I'm here, and I think about not having time for that person. I definitely don't have time for the team right now, and that like I wish we just had more time to do those things. I wouldn't say that's changing anything. Yeah. Maybe it's like
it's a growing pain.
It's a growing thing that I think we're working through. And
you got 2 locations. I mean, that's an animal.
Yeah, and really it's 3 or 4, right? Because if you think about roasting as a location,
sure.
You think about Front Yard as a location, which it should be, right? It's a different business, different animal, different problems.
Right.
You're talking about 4 different businesses, and then market in and of itself is wine, food, beer, coffee, grocery. So it's a lot, and I think I wouldn't change anything because I'm loving it. I mean, the breadth of what we get to cover is so cool, and I feel very lucky.
It's new challenges.
It's new challenges that I wish, I don't know, wish we were better at them.
Yeah,
but
you will be.
We will
It'll
be.
come.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think, I wouldn't change anything, but I wish we were better. But that's just me.
That's a good drive.
I always want. That's me.
It's the entrepreneurial spirit right there.
Yeah,
I dig it. All right, so we're gonna come to the end of the podcast here, and I got a little rapid fire questions. Okay, so a little this or that. All right, I'll let you both.
Are we gonna
answer? You can both answer them. All right, we'll start with just typical pour over or espresso.
Espresso.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Money or free time?
Free time.
Finance guy, money so that I can, and then I have free time. I mean,
Hey,
like,
there you go.
I mean, I think it's both.
Yeah,
I'll take both. But
Kind of a trick question.
yeah, that's a trick question.
All right, this one's got 3-part: cocktail, wine, or beer.
All the above.
Yeah.
I really dabble in all of them.
All of the above. I would say less cocktail, more like said spirit,
Gotcha.
beer and wine.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You're a spirit guy. I get it.
I mean, I guess if I'm going back to my roots, it's beer.
Yeah.
You know, my dad grew up on a farm. It's like come home from work and crack open a Budweiser. That's what you do.
There's nothing better, man.
Yeah,
I love bourbon.
Yeah, Tim's a bourbon guy,
I do too.
but we dabble in it all.
Bourbon's good. All right, so toilet paper, over or under?
Over.
Over.
All right, sandwich or taco?
Duh. Taco.
I'm gonna say taco.
Is a taco a sandwich?
No, no. Although if y'all haven't had the fried green tomato sandwich at
got
Nova
some
Market,
good
it
sandwiches
gives
at
it
Market.
it gives it a
I
run.
got you. Yeah, there was competing
So-
things there. You have sandwiches and tacos, so I put you on the spot.
I'm just gonna give you all the above on all the. I mean,
Yeah, right. There you go. That's it, man. Well, I appreciate y'all coming over here.
Yeah, dude.
It's been a joy. I've
Yeah.
learned so much about y'all's business. I think y'all are doing incredible things in Mobile.
likewise.
And I love, seeing everything that you're doing and enjoying it as a customer. So I appreciate it.
Cool.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
man.
All right, man. Cheers.